I'm Max Everly, and this is my second track for my personal project, which is a 3-track drum and bass EP. I'm just going to go into how I made the track, what sort of things I did in the track, what processes I start with, what didn't go so well, what did go so well, and obviously what is actually in the track. So first of all, I like to start with the drums. So I just added 2 kick samples. One's a low-ended kick. It's got a low-pass filter on it, or low-pass EQ, sorry. That's just taking out any of the highs because I've got another kick underneath that, which is layered on top of it. Which is just a top-end kick. It's a bit more punchy and just not so low-endy compared to this kick here. I've just put a high pass on that, just to remove those lows so they're not clashing with the other kick and the transients aren't just going all mad really. I've also added a little fade here to just make the sample a little bit shorter and a bit more punchy. I then added 2 snares which are layered on top of each other. One's like a rim shotty type of snare, then the other sort of like a clap clicky type of snare, and as you can see, the one here, that's the clicky type of snare. It's just got some fades on some of them, and some of them are a bit longer. That's just to make a more decayed snare on a few of the bars, just makes it a bit more variation in the track. Then that's just a basic kick snare pattern, just on the one beat and the second beat, and then obviously that's hitting on the half, just makes that sort of sound. Then I added a hi-hat which is hitting on every 16th note, and that's just getting that groove going. That just follows throughout the track, the hi-hats and the kicks and snares. I then added this crash, which is just like a little cymbal. It just hits on a couple of different bars throughout the track. It just creates a bit more impact on drops, just makes a bit more variation. And then I felt the drums needed a bit more glue to them, so I added this think break here, which helped the drums just glue together really nicely. I've chopped up some little bits in there to my liking. Yeah, pretty much made it my own sort of break really. I've also obviously just got that EQ on there. It's just cutting out some of the lows because I don't want them clashing with my kick, and just cutting out some of those highs because I didn't really need the top end that much. I forgot to go into the EQs on here, so I've just EQ'd some of the lows on the snare and a tiny bit of the highs, and just boosted this 2K frequency here. I think that just sounded right to me at the time. Then I've obviously got this EQ for the other snare too, just boosting some of those high frequencies. It was a bit extreme, but that's okay. And then on those kicks, that's them there, just by here. I've then on the drum bus, so I've just made a track stack which is pretty much the same as a bus anyway. I've just got some EQ. I don't even think I've used that yet. I haven't even used that. A compressor which has just got a drum preset on it. I think it just makes the drums sound a bit more punchy. I kind of liked the way it sounded, so I kept it in there. And I've also got some distortion as well. It's really like not a lot of distortion at all, just that little bit, just to make it a bit more punchy and come at you. I then went on to creating, oh sorry, I missed one bit of the drums out. Pretty much I've just added it's another break I took. I just chopped up the last bar. It's just a little drum fill. It just makes a bit more variation within the drums on the end of the 8 bars and stuff like that. I then went on to the basses. So the main bass, this sub here, I made it in Serum. It's pretty much just a Reese bass. It's just a saw wave with 11 voices of unison. Haven't really done much to it, to be honest. Just added a couple little effects, some distortion, some hyper, bit of multi-band compression, and a low pass filter just to cut out all those highs and create a more lo-fi sound. And then the other bass which goes hand in hand with that bass is this one here, which is made up of 2 sine waves. That's literally it. It's just two sine waves, and then I've changed the harmonics to my liking, which just made the sound a bit more wavy and wobbly, if that makes sense. And that's just hitting obviously on these notes here. Only comes in on that second beat there. Second bar, sorry, not beat. That second bar there, and it just makes that higher noise more prominent. So the way I've done it is I've put a compressor on there which is side chained from the sub to the second bass. The higher bass got a side chain, so whenever the higher bass is hitting, the sub's just ducking slightly, just to let it come through in the mix a little bit more. And then I've also got a compressor on there as well, another compressor which is being side chained to the kick, so that's not being clashing with the kick either, and that's on both of those there. And then I think I put a limiter on the sub just to get a bit more gain out of it because it was a bit quiet. And I've also put a EQ on there, high pass on there, high pass on there, just to remove all those high frequencies and just have that low-ended sub in there. Then this one I've got a bit more of the mid-range in there, and I've boosted some of the 300 to about 500 range just to get those higher harmonics a bit more prominent within the mix. Then I made a few warp basses which kind of just hit just before the drop here. They're just made in Serum as well. I pretty much just use a square wave, and then if I can show you, it's just pretty much the envelope is being mapped to the cutoff, which is making that movement there. So basically the envelope's opening up the cutoff, and that's what's making that warp sort of sound. And then there's just a couple of effects on there, bit of distortion, hyper, and a bit of compression as well. I then have a few little instruments I added into it. So there's this pad here, which I took from, I can't remember where I got it from, it's just a sample from somewhere. I've just added some reverb. I sounded a little bit out of key to me, so I put a tuner on there as well. And I've also put a filter on there which is just being used in the build up to the track for some automation. And then there's just a bit of EQ on there as well, just removing those lows and just keeping the frequency that I wanted. There's also another sort of horn instrument I used. I can't remember, but yeah, it's just a trumpet pretty much, but I've kind of just made a mess of it, really. Not mess, but it sounds good, but it's not really a trumpet anymore. It's more like its own sound now. So I added a bit of reverb, some tremolo, which is just making like the stereo width just bounce off each other. It just creates like a cool little effect, really. I can show you that now. Just creates like, just makes that cool little whistly sort of effect. And then I've also got some echo on there as well, which is obviously you can hear that on quarter notes, bit of dry, a little bit less wet, not too much. And that's pretty much the instruments in the track. Then I've got a few little vocal samples that I've used. They're just like breath samples really. So we've got this one here. It's just being used on the main part of the drop. It's just a classic jungle female vocal sample that's used in a lot of different tracks. It's just got a bit of reverb on there just to make it decay for a longer amount of time, just so it has that more impact in the track. I've also got some more vocal samples. Vocal sample there which is being used. I've chopped it up a little bit. Used a quick sampler, I think, yeah, quick sampler just to chop it up and get that sort of choppy sort of sound to it. I've also got a few different a few different FX, and they're just some reverse crashes which are being used as like a riser and like a downlift. That just comes towards the, just creates that impact on the drop. So that's being used in the intro a little bit, and then just before the drop as well. I'm just going to go into the intro of the track. What I forgot to tell you as well is the second part of the track, like the second chorus, is using a different bass line. I just wanted to use something a little bit different to make it more interesting. Obviously they're hitting on different parts there. Then I have the intro here. That's pretty much everything in the drop. Then what I usually do with my intros is I'll just drag all the drums over. I'll just play around with what seems to sound good within the intro, put some automation on there, just get that filter or high pass, high cut frequency. Just as you can see, the drums, they're all just being lifted up, and then I've got them to drop here just on the 17th bar, and then it rises back up, just creates a bit more impact within the track. I also added this top loop as well into the intro, which has obviously got that high cut frequency just being opened up. That's just opening up, just making it sound nice, and then obviously it drops obviously on that 32nd bar. I also added a few little bits of variation in there with obviously the arrangement and stuff, so it's pretty much just a 32 bar drop with a 17 bars there, that's a freeze, and then I've put just a little gap here. That's just sort of like a fake drop sort of thing, just creates a lot more impact, just so it doesn't sound the same just going through the whole chorus. And then in the second part I've obviously done the same, but I've just removed all the other sounds. So like in the second drop chorus, in the second chorus I've just removed all the instruments other than the trumpet. I've just added that vocal sample, chopped it up, and just played it in on the keyboard just where it sounded good. And that's pretty much the track really. There's not really a lot more to it, other than obviously there's a few bits of automation, this auto filter, just using that for the cutoff of the auto filter, which is just opening up as the build up goes up, building up, and then it drops. And then I've used it in the actual chorus as well to just create a bit more variation and a bit more movement in the sound. I also added this dub siren, which is a classic jungle sample. I just used that before the drop just to create a bit more emphasis into the drop and a bit more just impact, if that makes sense. And that's pretty much the track. A few things that didn't go so well was I did have this automated, so the level was automated, and it just was making it sound really clicky. It was just like, obviously those basses are obviously compressed now, being sidechained. Before that I was using the volume like that, which isn't very good really. I was just using the volume to basically automate it, cut out that levelness and just make it a bit quieter so that this bass could come through. But with the sidechain it just works a lot better, but obviously recorrected that. That's pretty much the track. I'll just show you some of the automation I've done. Obviously by here, little bits here just on those warp basses while they come in just before the drop, and then obviously that auto filter which is being used for the cut off of the auto filter there, and then obviously this one here as well. I've also forgot to tell you in the intro, I've also got a bass guitar which comes in on the 16th bar or 17th bar, whatever. It just makes the intro sound so like acoustic and nice to me. Just creates that like acoustic feel I found in the intro. Just made it sound like really nice. Which I've also put a bit of OTT compression on that bass guitar, also the auto filter which you've seen, which is right there. Just bring it in. I don't even think I've used it that much. It's not even doing anything that cut off. And then I've just put a little low pass EQ on there, just cutting out some of those highs, just keeping that low bass feel to it. And that's my second track for the personal project. I'm not too sure I'm going to call it yet, but we'll find that out soon. Thanks for listening.